hopefully you got the problem.
R2s, you know. I think Lions are going but
all the photographer bankruptcies were Canada are fine for like 3 months.
We're gonna be left being the ones that ask questions.
yes, they do candidates that don't even bother candidates that don't bother buying the R3.
No.
It's said because they all
That happened at a
discontinue those businesses, and they're gonna go to a viewfinder. Like they
I mean, you guys are, you know the same thing.
They're
So.
definitely
but like only one person only saw one
trying to play
order
catch up.
at
Yeah, we will catch up.
and then
Yeah.
when it started more people came and I was like I was one of the
That's the
scary
second
talkers.
version.
I'm like,
The R5.
like man, is it gonna look at me like give help?
No, I don't know. Is the R5 the new?
I think that's why the photographer was sitting in the chair and she was like,
She got a
photographer was like,
I guess the files are really very great.
Oh, was it?
I think they treated it like that. Sony solved it. It's amazing how much Sony listened to us. The first day they gave it to us, all the way through. That one day they asked me to come in, so I go in and they're like, we need to ask you questions and technical stuff. And I said, I don't really know what to tell them. And I went in there and there's all the engineers sitting there. This guy's in charge of autofocus, this guy's in charge of
Pick it up. You can start looking at it and say, okay, this is what I missed from the old. This is what's done.
But they asked me, they were able to, they were able to get the information out of a lot of it.
That green light is easy to do.
Yeah, yeah.
That was an easy, simple thing.
Yeah.
That's a layman's. Right. If you're not transmitting.
Yeah, if you're not the person actually doing the work.
I thought it was a really easy thing to say, look, you know, we didn't think about it.
Yeah.
It seems like a good idea. That's
Voice tagging, remember they didn't have voice tagging on the first one.
Because the engineers thinking about this for last they most people
No, these were made for folks.
no, I mean when we and that's good that recently, you know.
But I think that these were specifically.
But that's something they would never done. I need to look quickly and see if something's going on.
And all the studio guys, are like,
So I'm like, okay, not much better here. So we didn't hear that her, replace me. I just see
And no report and no report.
one intrepid reporter.
Just
Two intrepid reporters.
yeah.
Well, and they more from here and one from each side. All right, one more. I got you. All right, 7.
I know.
Lucky 7.
Yeah, yeah.
You should be
Yeah. Thousands.
you still teaching?
I did a little bit. I still need not high quality.
Chip is.
Of course, neither was 7.
I got this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I
You're showing me.
I didn't see these cameras at all.
Yeah, once you learn the camera and know the
Oh, she did. Yeah.
shortcomings and what it can do well, and
It's in the ballpark of what she
In 5 years, when you phone, or when you watch
Yeah.
and now 5 years when you read book.
Well, that's what I told her. I said, you don't even know what the hell
Eyes will never be that good.
it could be phenomenal. Like,
no, it'll be in your eye.
In your eyes.
Not us, but the next generation.
You just take that.
Yeah, so you shoot it and Twitter immediately. Block.
Yeah.
Me either. I gotta go.
I'm just watching it. They keep hearing it in other states.
Like I can barely read it.
Oh,
Yeah, man, I am blind.
So I want to go to the
oh, it's very really nice when people are talking to you.
I did hear someone who I know who was just like walking by and that's when it got it.
See, the problem is,
Yeah,
like,
I like
whenever
that.
they take off for the day, they have to utilize it.
Exactly.
Like in New York, if you wouldn't wait in line at like, wherever the Mets play or whatever, and you go put your name in, and at 3 o'clock they'll call you, or might not call you. A lot of my photographer friends,
That's the stupidest thing I've ever
like
heard.
just because they can't.
I'm all for full employment.
They've done it like 5 or 6 times, and then finally one time they hit. But
I'm just bummed they already put out our daily editor's choice because I wanted to get pictures.
I don't know. There's not many reporters, so she's being very nice. Just gonna see what happens, and then if we have to, we'll go top 5. I think.
Hey, see, Joe, did you?
And to be honest,
Yeah.
I don't care. It's Pelosi, so I will scoot out of the way.
I gave up my 808 for Y code.
Did you get your approval for this thing yet? The new one? No, but like if you check with them, they kind of redone it, like Oliver.
I mean, if they would have waited and got it just, or Justin kind of bothers me that it's on the line.
I mean, it's always just
Yeah, I mean, the
like
background was a little distracting.
Yeah, if his head would have been
Alex, hired for me.
I
know she does.
black,
Wait.
and then that
So
butterfly.
next time I'm there, we're supposed to get
That's why
Hi guys,
That's why photographers don't put their pictures on
all
the wall.
in the room,
Always
that's my
putting
goal
their-
at least. So let's try for our usual 4 up here,
Wow.
and then 1 on either side, so 2 sort of by the pillars here.
No.
Then we'll do 2 back here, and then 3 on one side.
whatever you need.
Thank you all. Yeah, like the usual 4 up front,
Good morning. So here we are. The hail. Hoot with the owls, soar with the eagles early in the morning here. Not that early, but in the inclement weather. And speaking of inclement weather, our hearts and prayers go out to the people of Texas for what they are suffering in their situation there in terms of lack of water, lack of energy. I have a daughter in Houston, so I know firsthand what her concerns are, but her concerns are minor compared to people in need, people truly in need. To lose water and service for my family is one thing, but for people who don't have so many options, it's just heartbreaking. I would hope that the public policy of the state would recognize the needs that are there. We have in our COVID bill $50 billion for FEMA. The president has responded to the call for disaster assistance. He did that on Sunday morning. Now FEMA will take a measure of what the needs are. We want to be sure to have the funds there. There are other needs that my colleagues from Texas have told us about, the needs that relate to nutrition. Again, the fact that some people were hopeful of getting their vaccine shot, or not able to do it. And it is, so they want immediate assistance from FEMA to replenish Texas' water supply and help Texas obtain safe and drinkable water. Immediate assistance from FEMA to respond to Texans for emergency personal assistance through direct payments and home repair assistance. Immediate assistance from FEMA and SBA to aid small businesses. Requests for implement disaster supplemental nutrition SNAP food and to allow temporary flexibility in SNAP eligibility. Authorization of emergency appropriations for low-income, for LIHEAP. LIHEAP would enter into this. That LIHEAP, for those of you who are new, Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program. Then it goes on and on. So in any event, assistance in delivery, storage, and distribution of the COVID vaccination, to name a few of the immediate needs that people have. Everybody has their personal experience. My daughter's home has no water. Pipes are breaking all over because of the cold. Again, they can handle it, but a lot of people can't. So it's the question of needing water and food and energy and vaccines and the rest. We really have to be on top of that and hope that there would be some preparation for the future. This was in many ways predictable in a long range of weatherizing the infrastructure of energy in the state. That's a longer range discussion, but in the immediate, to have given people an earlier alert as to what their concerns would be. I believe that the Energy and Commerce Committee will be taking up some form of, when I say investigation, I mean a look into it to see how things could have turned out better and will turn out better in the future. At the same time, I'm so proud of the work of our members, the chairs of the committees of jurisdiction, the members, the staff. I feel as if we've worked with staff 24/7 for a number of weeks now to make sure that we stay on schedule with the American Rescue Plan, the Biden plan. It is, as you know, a couple of weeks ago, we passed the budget bill for reconciliation to protect the 51-vote privilege. Then last week, we wrote up the bill within that framework, within different committees of jurisdiction, honoring their amounts. And then that now has gone to the Budget Committee, which will consolidate all of that, make sure that it is, again, in keeping with what reconciliation allows. And that will then go to the Rules Committee for us to vote on sometime at the end of next week is my hope. However, at the same time, there's communication with the Senate as to what the Byrd rule will allow in the bills as we go forward. So that's kind of where we are on that. And people have worked so hard and so intensely because, as I said to the members, when we have been briefing them the last few days, we've had, under leadership of our chair, Hakeem Jeffries, and Pete Aguilar, the vice chair, every day we've had the chairs present what is in the bills, not for suggestions of amendment, but for notification of this is what the overall reconciliation enables us to do, and this is how we are going forward. So I'm very, very proud of their work. Today is a busy day, I know, with the snow and sleet and the rest, but today we have the U.S. Citizenship Act, which will be introduced. Linda Sanchez, the lead in the House, Bob Menendez, the chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee in the Senate. The Equality Act, this is something, it's very exciting for us. The Equality Act, we passed it, of course, before, and hopefully now it will be passed into law in the Senate because it will have bipartisan support. The business community is supportive because they want the very best in their workforce, and in order for that to happen, we have to remove discrimination in all aspects of our society and our economy. So I thank David Cicilline for his leadership in passing this, Senator Merkley in the Senate. And then we're very pleased at the strong bipartisan support we have for the Congressional Gold Medal to honor our Capitol Police, naming a few of them for their courage, their valor, and for saving our lives. Without them, who knows how bad this could have gone, but I'm very pleased that we have very, very strong bipartisan support, and with the leadership, Mr. McCarthy and Mr. Scalise, as well as the leadership on the Democratic side as well. As you saw, the Senate announce their support for this on Saturday night, and then we will come together and pass this legislation. And then we're working on the commission, the January 6th commission. What's happening there in that timetable is the following. Everybody was saying we need to have a commission and this or that. I was very much a part of writing the commission in 2000, the 9/11 commission. You've heard me go through that before. And so we heard almost immediately, or sometime last week, from the chairs of that commission, Governor Kane of New Jersey and our former chairman in the House, Lee Hamilton. And they sent us all a letter, the leadership, the president, the vice president, leadership, House and Senate, saying this is what we think should be in the legislation. It wasn't too far from what everybody thought. What are the causes of what happened 9/11? What is the truth there? What is the security? Look at how the security can protect us, better preparedness can protect us in the future, and how did that go wrong, is what they had in the letter. They also had a provision that they wanted, which is to strengthen Congress, the view that the public has of Congress, and we'll see how we can deal with that. But by and large, most of what they suggested very much mirrors what we had in the bill that we wrote in 2011 at the time, for the, not 2011, the 9/11 commission. So that legislation, plus their report, plus their letter, is pretty much the basis for what we have. As soon as we came to terms with that in the last few days, we sent it to the Republicans to see what suggestions they may have, because for this to work, it really has to be strongly bipartisan. So we'll hear back from them on that, and I'm excited about that. When we did it in 2001, the families of 9/11 really weighed in on it. there's really strong support in the country for us to have. Seek the truth, find the truth, but also understand how we have to protect the American people from what might be out there in terms of domestic terrorism and the rest. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Madam Speaker, thank you. I wanted to ask you, on January 13th, a number of your Democrat colleagues sent a letter to the Sergeant-at-Arms and U.S. Capitol Police regarding potential reconnaissance tours by GOP members that happened on January 5th prior to January 6th. I wanted to know if these have been confirmed and if there's an update on that specific aspect of the investigation.
No, anything like that would remain between the members who know of such actions, and I don't know I do not know. Perhaps I will find out at some point, but I do not know what members they are referencing. I think that's between them and whoever would be investigating it.
Have you seen that letter from January 13th?
Yeah, the letter that was signed by members. Yeah, that was a matter of in the public domain. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Do you anticipate that this commission will have subpoena power? I mean, what kind of power do you think the commission will have?
Well, you have to have subpoena power. Yes. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that teachers need to be vaccinated before heading back into the classroom?
Well, it depends on I think the degree of the incidence of COVID in their area. I think teachers should be vaccinated. I don't know that they must be vaccinated before going in. We're very proud of what's in our bill when it comes to education, because this is where we're saying that we want the children to be in school. Again, I told you about my daughter not having water in Houston. I have a granddaughter in public school in San Francisco, so I see the need for that to happen. Again, in her case, she has all the technology and the assistance at home, and some children do not. So we want as many kids to be back in school as possible. For that to happen, it takes some money. It takes some money because you have to have spatial distancing, which means you need more space. Therefore, you need more teachers. Therefore, you need more buses for kids to be spaced to come to school. You need better ventilation. 40% of the public schools in the country have substandard ventilation in the class, and that is very important. So for all of those reasons, we're very pleased with what is in the legislation and more, those and more. I think that I want everybody to be vaccinated, and I certainly want our teachers to be, but depending on what the situation is in their area, it may or may not be necessary. Now, the important point to make on this is where there is a high incidence of COVID, most of those schools are virtual or hybrid anyway. They're not actual. And the vaccination might not make it actual anyway. So again, there has to be a judgment made from the community as to how they go forward. We want the vaccine to be there for everyone. I think it's having an impact. We're very proud of the scientists who work 24/7 to get right now COVID, Pfizer and Moderna, what they have put forth, and now others on the horizon, and that will make it more available. But I don't think that it's a yes or no question. I think it depends on the incidence of COVID in the region and if, in fact, those classes will even be actual. One of the fights we had, I use the word fight, that we had with the Trump administration last year was that they wanted the funds in the bill only to go to schools that were actually open. And how could you do that? You are depriving so many schools who are lacking in ventilation and more space and more opportunity to hire teachers. Therefore, you were disadvantaging the most disadvantaged schools in the country, and that just couldn't be. And this legislation is very smart in what it does, and if you want me to, I'll read you all the things that it does do to open schools. And again, yes, we want everyone vaccinated. Is it a prerequisite? Well, it just depends on the region. Yes, ma'am.
Madam
Speaker,
a follow-up
Madam Speaker.
On the funding, Republicans say that just a fraction of the education funding in the COVID bill is just allocated for this year and much of it over the next 10 years. So how do you square that with the need to open schools with the funding if so much of it is down the road?
I don't place too much weight on what the Republicans say, even though it seems to be a value to you to use as a question. But the fact is that this is the money that is needed. This is the money that is needed. The $130 billion in K through 12 will help provide immediate relief to schools so they can safely reopen for in-person instruction and address the difficult multi-year challenges making up lost time in the classroom. This learning loss is heartbreaking for children, and of course we're hoping that summer school and the rest can make up for some of it. The degree to which in-person learning takes place in a state is a local decision, not a federal one, but the federal arm can and will make recommendations and provide resources. It's about resources and to local, and that's what we plan to do in this legislation. The Committee on Education and Labor advanced a major portion of the president's COVID proposal last week for education, 130 for K through 12, and then additional money for higher education. Now, let me also say that education is largely funded, more than 90%, by state and local entities. And so that's why the state and local piece in here is very, very important as well. So if, in fact, and I think it is a fact, that we all want children back in school, there has to be a recognition that it's going to take resources to do so and to be spent as soon as it possibly can be, as I mentioned, immediate relief to schools so they can safely reopen with in-person education. Yes, ma'am.
Madam Speaker, with respect to immigration, do you think this new package that's being unveiled today?
Excuse me, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry. With respect to the immigration package that's being unveiled today, do you envision that having to be pushed through the reconciliation process?
Not necessarily, no. Today they will introduce the legislation. What we, as I mentioned to you earlier, what we did, what we informed members of, this is the design. It is frozen, and it complies with the reconciliation. I don't see anything of that size. Now, there are people who are advocating for that, and the question is, would that meet the Bird rule and those other kinds of things? And if it would, that would be wonderful, because then we wouldn't need the 60 votes. But I salute the president for putting forth the legislation that he did. There are others who want to do piecemeal, and that may be a good approach too. That's up to the Congress to decide. But I was thinking this morning, in anticipation of their announcement of the Citizenship Act, that a couple years ago, I guess it must be longer than that now, when Trump was new president. Oh, did I say his name? When they did the Muslim ban, we had a hearing, a rump hearing, because we were not the majority, and we couldn't do that. And at that hearing, I think it's really important to note two things that relate to this introduction today. One was that when we had economists speak, we said, what is the most important thing we can do to grow the economy? Comprehensive immigration reform. And when the evangelicals spoke, and that was not just at that hearing, but at other hearings that we had, comprehensive immigration reform will grow our GDP. That's very important. And when we had at the particular hearing I was mentioning, the Muslim ban hearing, the evangelicals spoke. The representative for the American Evangelical Association, whatever the title is, about refugees, which are in this bill. He said The refugee resettlement program of the United States of America is the crown jewel, of our humanitarianism. The refugee resettlement program. That was the evangelical community speaking up, because they have been leaders in that regard. Both of those are covered: comprehensive immigration reform and resettlement of refugees in a humanitarian way. The crown jewel of American humanitarianism. So this is a values-based but also economically beneficial. And as I have always said, immigrants coming to our country, with newcomers coming with their hopes and dreams and aspirations, with their optimism and determination to make the future better for their families, well, those are American traits. And when they come here with those values, they make America more American. So I'm very excited about now how it happens through the legislative process remains to be seen. But it is a priority, and we will be working on it. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes, ma'am.
President Joe Biden, during a town hall this week, said that the U.S. should speak up for human rights in China. I know you've been very vocal about it, and he said that there will be repercussions for China. What actions would you like to see from President Biden to change China's human rights practice?
Yeah. Well, thank you for that question. Yes, I've been working on human rights in China for over 30 years, since Tiananmen Square. And it is, it's really important for the world to know that human rights are part of our value system as we engage in the world. About our national security, it's about our military and our strength. It's about our economy and how we interact, and it's about our values. And we cannot sacrifice one for the other. What form that takes, I would hope that it would change some behavior in China vis-a-vis Hong Kong, Tibet, Uyghurs. It's really interesting to me that it took us 100 years to have the Armenian genocide declared a genocide, and they've already declared what's happening to the Uyghurs a genocide. So I think that that's a very strong statement. It's also a strong statement for the people who are, I have a relationship over time with so many of those who have been arrested for years in prison labor camps and all the rest of that. I'm so proud of that. And basically, what they tell us, the cruelest form of torture for them is when the Chinese authorities come in and say, nobody even knows you're here. They don't even remember why you're here and the rest. So that's why it's important for us to speak out, so that those people know that they are not forgotten, even by name. In many cases, we have named them. And by the way, in a very bipartisan way. I've worked for over 30 years with my Republican counterparts across the aisle. One of them who is still here, Chris Smith, and I have worked on these issues for years, but Frank Wolf before, and just a whole long list of Republican members who have been excellent on human rights throughout the world. You just named China, but throughout the world. They've taken risks. They've gone to prison labor camps to collect evidence so that we could make our case here. But I salute the administration for honoring our values. How we go about it is just in weighing the equities. The Chinese know, and those who are arrested, suppressed, whatever, know that they are not forgotten. Thank you all very much. Be careful on your way home. Don't go too late, because you don't want to be traveling in the dark with all of this. Do you have any other grandmotherly advice that you would like me to give to you? But I really salute you for being here with that, with the weather that was out there. But a big day, 3 bills, gold medal, congressional gold medal honoring our Capitol Police and others, the Equality Act, any discrimination against the LGBTQ community, the American Citizenship Act of President Biden, very important, and then continuing our work on on COVID. As we leave, though, I do want to say once again, because I saw some of you on Saturday night, how proud we were and are of our managers, led by Jamie Raskin, on how they honored their oath and helped us honor our oath to protect and defend the Constitution. And they were doing so at the same time as we were honoring our values, meeting the needs of the American people in the COVID legislation, dispelling, I don't even know where any of you got this idea, that our honoring our constitutional oath would come at the cost of our honoring, meeting the needs of the American people. We're so proud of them, as we are proud of our chairs for the work that they did to take us forward now. Thank you all very much. Be careful. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Done and dusted.